وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. تمام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our knowledge, inshallah. Rabbi zidni ilma was the only thing that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told to ask for an increase of. That's how important this beautiful subject of knowledge is. And knowledge is great, all of it, because it empowers the intellect of humans. But the best of all of them is going to be sacred knowledge, which comes from beyond the heavens, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His kalam. It's a kalam al-munazzal on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That kalam that was beautiful, without beginning, without end, without any flaw. And so in these sessions, we're trying to find out and study together, inshallah, and find out, sit together and learn what our elders have said with regards to the tafseer of these verses, the understanding of how we interpret these and how we implement these. The beautiful event, or the strange and peculiar situation that the Muslims had found themselves in Surah Ahzab, in the Battle of Ahzab. This was the moment of, like, the turning point, where the stratagem of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, appointing Sayyidina Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud, after he's taken his shahada, to go and scout for the Muslims, and he on his own accord begins to devise a beautiful plan where he split the ranks of the disbelievers on the other side. Now there's going to be the moment of Hazrat Hudhayfa radiyallahu ta'ala. Sayyidina Hudhayfa radiyallahu is going to be a prominent figure inside of this event. So what happens here on the other side, while all this was going on, the ranks had been split, the wind had come, it was taking literally all the tents away, the pots were being thrown about, they were being thrown about. Every time they tried to pitch the tents again, the wind would blow them. It was too strong for them. It was like a gale force wind. And when you're in the open, it just comes even harder. You've got no way of protection. There's no hills to block the wind. Now this is all going on. Don't forget, the Muslims will be feeling that side, but it was as if there was almost a sense of calm on the Muslim side. The Prophet ﷺ was wondering, like, what is going on here on the other side? So on the other side, when the Prophet ﷺ heard the report, it just come in, that Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud had accomplished, and how a rift was caused amongst the Confederate forces, he was strongly inclined towards the idea of someone from amongst the Muslims going into the enemy lines and returning with much needed intelligence. Is it true? Are they actually running? Are they actually going? I need to find out. I need more information here. Ya Rabbi, this is a real big test. Don't forget, 1-2 days you can be hungry, that's one thing. We're fasting, in the daytimes, mashallah, we feel it a little bit. Can you imagine being away from your norms, not being able to do it for 3-4 days, like iftar? And then you've got the cold, and then you're working through it strenuously, and then everyone's going against you, and then everybody's stacking against you. All of these things, like, it can break a person, fully break. All of this, now the need is something now. This is a situation, now you have to understand it in that order. They haven't been able to sleep on top of that because they've got a barrage of, like arrows all the way coming through, to the point that they have to miss their prayers and delay it till later as well. Now that's the hardest time ever for the believers. Now they are literally down on their knees at this point. Any little good news. Now the Prophet ﷺ kept this to himself about this Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud, but he wants to find out more information because he's on the other side. It's like a different country. It's like, I was going to say India, Pakistan, but it's not. Let's not say that. This is going to be a beautiful across the border situation, and we don't know what's going to happen on the other side, isn't it? So now the Prophet ﷺ, he needed that intelligence from the other side about the enemy formations and intentions. But this severe and chilly wind storm was sent upon the enemy, however, did affect the whole of Medina and the Muslims too. Obviously, it's a wind that's coming all over, and the Muslims were affected by this as well. The chill was bitter. The time was night time. It was dark. The noble Sahaba were, after the heavy grind of a long day, sitting all shattered because of the confrontation. They were literally sat down and no one was talking. No one was even looking at each other. They were freezing cold. They were down on their knees, literally, huddled together, feeling the pinch of bitter cold. Just there were anything they could just do to stay warm. Now the Prophet ﷺ, addressing the gathering, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Is there someone who will stand up and go into the enemy lines and bring news about them, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enter you into paradise?" Now, what's going to happen? What do you think? Do you think it's going to be like a show of hands? Everybody wants Jannah. On any normal time, everybody would have been jumping at the choice. Like, me first, I want to go. Because when the Prophet says Jannah, it's guaranteed. That's guaranteed. Of course, this was the gathering of Sahaba who would have normally staked their lives at this call. If they had no legs, they would crawl to the other side if they had to. But the objective conditions prevailing with them were so hard, and he's showing you how hard that situation was, that not one single person stood up. Not one. The Prophet ﷺ got busy with Salah. After remaining busy with Salah for a while, he addressed the gathering yet again. "Is there someone here who would bring me some news from the other side, from the enemy lines, and in return receive Jannah?" This time too, silence. Silence prevailed over the entire gathering. Not one single person rose, not one single person. The Prophet ﷺ got busy with Salah once again. After some time, so he's making, look, anything that happens, the Prophet ﷺ, look what he did. Turn to Salah, turn to Salah, turn to Salah. Your solution isn't in asking people, it's literally turning to Salah. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Rabbi. After some time, he says again, "Whosoever does it shall be in Jannah with me." The Sahaba, do you think they're going to give up on that chance? But everybody was so broken down from fatigue, hunger, and chill, and so utterly helpless that not one single person could still bring himself to rise, even at that. That's how hard it was. And you have to understand it. That's how hard sometimes the test is, when you're right at the rock bottom, then you see. Now the Prophet is going to do something that's going to be like unique and stuff. The narrator of the hadith, Sayyidina Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman. Who's Sayyidina Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman? He's the Sahib al-Sir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the Prophet ﷺ, even though he trusted all of the Sahaba, and he would, tell them anything, but it's certain people that were the secret holders. He'll tell them the little secrets, and he's one of them, Sayyidina Hudhayfa. And he was the secret, and certain things he said that if he would tell to Sayyidina Abu Huraira, he's another one. He said, if people found out what the Prophet told me, and I told the people would kill me, literally. He's got top secret, intel over here from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sayyidina Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, wa ardahu, he says, at that time the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's looked around, he says, "Where's Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman?" He's called my name. And then he said, "Hudhayfa, you go." I'm not asking anymore, I'm telling you now. That's what it was. The Prophet just literally said, because there's certain people, it's just because they were just, down and out. But as soon as the Prophet gives a hukum, now it's different, isn't it? So now he says, "Hudhayfa, you go." My condition was no different to the others. But once I was ordered by my name, I had no choice but to obey. I stood up. My whole body was shivering with bitter cold. He passed his blessed hand over my head and my face. And he says, go into the enemy lines, and just all you got to do is bring back some news and don't do anything else. Don't do it. And you have to underline that again. He says, just go there, just get your information. Don't, even if you get any ideas, no, don't do it. He says, make sure you don't do anything when you're on the other side. Just get the intel, bring it back. That's all you got to do. But I've almost like skipped past that part. I'm going to go through it again. The Prophet ﷺ, what he did, he wiped his blessed hands over his head and his face. Get that part in as well. Then he prayed for my safety. I picked up my bow and arrows, tied up my own clothes on my body, and took my way towards them on the other side. When I started moving ahead from here, I noticed something really, really strange. The shivering sensation that had me in grips while I was in the tent was all suddenly gone with the wiping of that face of the Prophet, hands of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I was walking as if one was inside a hot bath all the way up to the enemy camps. That's what you call proper, mashallah, heating system, isn't it, mashallah? And no matter what the external issue is, when you're in the aman of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ya Rabbi. Once there, he said I went all the way there. Once there, I saw that the windstorm had uprooted their tents, upturned their cooking pots. Abu Sufyan was seated by a makeshift fire place, like relaxing before the heat, because that's the only way they could heat up. When I saw this, what was he saying is not what I saw this. He says a sitting target. He says a mind came, a thought came across my mind. He says, he's there. I've got a bow and arrow. He's right in front. He goes, that'll be the job done. I got my bow and arrow over my shoulder, and I was about to shoot. He says he was in perfect sight, Abu Sufyan, with my arrow, and then I suddenly remembered the order given by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do not do anything else. Just bring back information. Abu Sufyan was absolutely within striking range of my arrow, but it was in consideration of the order of the Prophet ﷺ that I disengaged my arrow from the bow. Disturbed by the condition around him, Abu Sufyan wanted to announce the plan to withdraw. But in order to do that, it was necessary that he should talk to responsible people from amongst the combined armed forces. Look at that, even he wants to do mashwara. Look how important they took mashwara. There are certain qualities inside of them, even in the days of Jahiliyyah, even in them days of Kufr, there are certain qualities that were really, really good that they brought into Islam as well with them. That's how they became from the worst of them to the best of them, isn't it? Allahu Akbar. The danger of a snooping spy nearby who may overhear what they were talking about was very much present. So Abu Sufyan is very clever in that sense. That really is a proper leader, a really big leader. That's why later on when he does become Muslim, and even Khalid bin Walid, he says the Prophet says, so when he comes into Islam, Khalid bin, he says it's about time your intellect brought you to here. He goes, I was just wondering how long it's going to take you to figure it out. And someone of your intelligence, you should have done it before. He goes, I was just waiting to see how long it's going to take you. So these are the qualities. Now he says, I want to tell the people, I want to do mashwara, but there's always an issue of spies. So he says, therefore, Abu Sufyan did something really smart, very clever. He says, before starting to talk, he asked the whole gathering, he says, recognize the person sitting next to everyone, so that no one who is not one of them would be able to hear what they said. Problem. Sayyidina Hudhayfa, he's just in the midst of them and he's going to get... So Sayyidina Hudhayfa says, now I really got scared. He says, what if the person sitting next to me were to ask me, who are you? He says, if so, my cover will be blown. It was with great presence of mind and courage that he himself took the initiative and slapping the hand of the person next to him, he said, "Who are you?" He says, before he asked me, he says, "Let me ask him." He said, "Who are you?" So the man said, "Ajib." He says, "You don't know me. You don't know who I am. I'm so and so, son of so and so." So he was a member of the tribe of Hawazin. They're going to be from the south of Makkah. Thus, Sayyidina Hudhayfa was saved by Allah Ta'ala from being arrested on the spot. Because he's there busy trying to explain. He goes, "No, you know me. Everyone knows me. Do you not know me?" So he's got busy with that. He forgot to ask who he was. Abu Sufyan ensured it was the gathering was of their own people, and that there was no stranger present amongst them. He related the disturbing conditions around them, how the tribe of Banu Qurayza had committed a breach of the pledge, and the extent to which their war supplies had shrunk, because they were shooting arrows non-stop. So they thought that was a cool move, but they got no ammo now. So now what are they going to fight with? After having recounted the situation, he said, "In my opinion, all of us should now leave and go back, and I too am going back myself." So he's telling them what he's said, and he wants them to do. Immediately thereafter, a state of panic hit the Confederate army, and everyone started to say, because I'm not waiting around for him to go. I'm getting up first because I don't want to be left behind. Otherwise, you're on enemy turf. It's not ours, Makkah, is it? It's far. Sayyidina Hudhayfa radiallahu ta'ala who says, "As I started going back from there, I felt as if I had some sort of a hot bath around me that was shielding me from the bitter wind. When I reached the home base, I found the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What was he doing? Doing what he does always. He was busy in salah. He was praying to Allah. When he turned from salam, I reported the entire event, and he was so happy, pleased with this happy news. The Prophet ﷺ started smiling and almost laughing, to the extent that in the darkness of the night his blessed teeth were seen shining. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. After that, the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made room for me close to his feet and covered my body with a part of his sheet he had wrapped around himself, until I went to sleep like a baby in that condition. When morning came, he himself woke me up. He says, "Qum, ya Nauman." Oh, big sleeper. You can translate it as you're a double sleeper. He said he slept like a log. He says he had the best sleep he's ever. Come on, he's in the blessed lap of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at the feet of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after hardships, these are the hardships. You get these beautiful jazas, mashallah. Good news after the ambition of the disbelievers is shattered. According to a narration of Sayyidina Sulaiman ibn Surad radiallahu ta'ala, according in the Sahih Bukhari Sharif, when the Confederate forces retreated, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Al-an naghzuhum wa la yaghzunana. Nahnu nasiru ilayhim." And look at this, every bit of it comes true. Now they shall not attack us from this point onwards, and instead we will attack them, run over their territories. They're not gonna. This is never ever gonna happen again. And he said it with such confidence because he's got information from above. After having said that, the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the noble Sahaba returned to the city of Makkah, and it was only after a month that the Muslims formally disarmed themselves. But did they? Now that dua what the Prophet said, he goes, they're never going to come to us again. Literally every single battle that takes place now, like I said, this was the turning point. Why? Because after this, it's all going to be, it's not going to be like, oh, defend yourself, defend. Now it's going to be advance. Those people, they went to them, they took the fight to them, in other words. That's how it's going to be. Now over here, this event pertaining to Sayyidina Hudhayfa appears in the Sahih of Muslim as well. It is an example setter of great class, as well as a bearer of many elements of guidance and miracles of the Prophet ﷺ. Those who ponder over it would find themselves and find these out. Therefore, any more details over here is not going to be mentioned over here. But there is other books, and the Seerah books mention them. It's a beautiful qissa. Now, like I said, they're going to go back to Medina, but there's going to be something that's going to not let them rest for a single day. The Holy Prophet ﷺ had just about reached Medina, just about, and he's going to give the good news to everybody when suddenly Sayyidina Jibreel Amin alayhi salatu wasalam comes. And they just about, can you imagine after all this, you're looking forward to just, I'm just going to go just relax. There's no relax for this world is a hardship for those righteous ones. They gave their time over here so they can rest inside their graves, isn't it? Allahu Akbar. So he's just about to put his feet up. Jibreel Amin comes, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the guise of a Sahabi. He comes in human form. And most of the time, whenever he came in human form, he would come in almost like in the resemblance of Sayyidina Dihya ibn Khalifa al-Kalbi, from the tribe of Kalb. Radiallahu ta'ala. He looked like him. He's beautiful Sahabi. Beautiful. That's why angels can change shape, but they can only change in higher forms. So when Sayyidina Dihya Kalbi, they said he was strikingly beautiful. And so Jibreel Islam wants to change into him. The shayateen can also change form, and the jinns, they can change form, but they can only change into lower beings like snakes, scorpions, and things like that, or corrupt people, them kind of things. So that's how the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give power. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam comes. He says, even though you people have disarmed yourselves, but the angels haven't. Ya Rabbi. He says, no, wait, where are you resting? He says, no time to rest. The angels are still ready for action. He says, who? Which army? What's going to happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says now, Allah commands you to attack Banu Qurayza. And I am going to, right there, not ahead of you. And Jibreel says, I'm going ahead. You can make your way. He said, I got wings, I can fly. You make your way there. To announce this in Medina, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent a proclaimer who proclaimed this order of the Holy Prophet ﷺ before the people, making sure that it reaches everyone. The order was, now this is very really important. Now it says, لا يصلين أحد الأسرى إلا في بني قريظة. Let none of you make salah of asr. It's nightfall coming. He says, don't even pray, don't wait and pray your asr salah here. He says, when you get to Banu Qurayza, that's the only place you're going to pray your asr. Don't even wait. Don't even put your bags down. Don't put your arms down, your weapons. He says, just go. Jibreel Islam was already there. Come on, we have to catch him up. Jibreel Islam is fast. You better be faster. So all of the companions now get ready for the second immediate battle, and they march towards Banu Qurayza. There's going to be an incident that takes place, and to find out what happens at this beautiful Banu Qurayza place and how it transpires and what happens in this real, like a battle, and it really is a battle. You're going to see Banu Qurayza is going to be no pushover. They have got a fortress. Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, Khaybar, all of them were fortresses. And you really don't understand what fortresses. Like, to get into the fortresses, if they block themselves off, they can stay for days without any food, drink, they've got the supplies inside. They've got tunnels that come from miles away in hidden places that they go underneath and they can get back in. And the walls, they're massive. The gates, not even the strongest person can climb over them. And then you've got the archers and all that. And they've got all the wealth. Don't forget, in the whole of Medina, the wealth literally was in them three places. Back in the days, if you look where the wealth was, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza, they were the wealthy places. So now they don't need anything. So if they block off, you're going to have it really hard. How will the Prophet ﷺ take these, and what will happen? You're going to have to find out tomorrow, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all the Sahaba for all the hard work that they did. We can only read about these. But Ya Allah, if we were there just to see one single day of Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman or Sayyidina Salman al-Farsi in them, the plains of Battle of Ahzab in Medina near the Sila Mount, we would be in tears. We in that just the wind would have swept us away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with all of the Sahaba. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill their graves with noor, increase them in their goodness, and may Allah be pleased with them so much that He gives them the best of rewards on the Day of Judgment with the highest abode in paradise with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen. And may Allah make us be accompanying them as well, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله